Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over 30 very useful Linux commands, and these will be very useful regardless of what you do, whether it's for personal computer use, whether it's for cybersecurity or data science or data analytics or system administration. These commands are all very useful in Linux, and I would consider most of them to be beginner commands, and I'm going to give you examples of all of these and try to make it very useful. Okay, so let's get started. So these are the commands I'm going to use. I'll scroll over them, and I also have I've named all the different folders, the commands I'm going to use. So let's get started with the first one. The first one is the cd command, and cd, I just did there. Cd means change directory, I believe. Okay, I'm pretty sure cd means change directory, and it's basically how you can move around directories. And cd is very, very useful, and if you ever use Linux, you're almost certainly going to use it a lot. So let's say, for example, I wanted to move to the 05 folder, 05-mv. I would just type cd and then the folder name. And if I want to go up one directory, you can type cd space ... And to go up two directories, you can do cd space ... and then a / and then another, and that takes you up two directories. So it's very, very useful. The next one would be ls, and I think I've typed ls already. ls stands for list directory contents, and it's basically a way to get the basically list all the different files and folders inside of a directory, and there's a lot of different flags and or parameters you can use, or anyway, it's very, very useful. It's very versatile. So this is the typical command ls, but if I wanted to get all the information, you can type ls space -la, and this will give you all the basically the most important file information, the owner, the group, when it was, I believe this was when it was made, or either when it was last, yeah, it's probably when it was made. Honestly, I don't remember. These are the permissions, and so this gives you lots of very good information. And instead of listing it like that, you could also have it listed all on one line. And if you do -1, that will list it all on one. Now these are all directories. Those are all directories, but it will also show you files. So for example, this has this was a GitHub repository, so this shows you folders and files. So the ls, and if you wanted to do ls-1, it'll show you the, so the way that this terminal is set up, I think the blue color means it's a folder, and if it's not blue, it's a file. So ls is very, very useful. And then, of course, you can combine. So you can use cd and then ls, or ls-la. And I forgot to mention, I'm also using the tab. If you use Linux commands a lot, you can use a tab. So for example, I can type cd and then bi tab, and that can, it's kind of a way to autocomplete. Okay, so now I've shown you ls and cd, and now let's go over the copy command, cp. So the copy command, cp, is basically, like I said, it's a way to copy files. So this is a GitHub repository I downloaded, and this is it has a file code of conduct. Let's say you want to call it, you want to copy the code of conduct. Just call it code of conduct. You can say, for example, _copy, and that's a way to actually copy the files. And I wanted to show you, I just copied that, and just to show you they're identical, we can look at them and they're exactly the same size. So that's good. So that was the copy command, and copy command is certainly going to be one of the most common ones you may use. And again, it stands for copy files and directories. And you can also copy an entire directory. For example, let's say we want to copy packages, you can use the -r, that means recursive. You can do packages, and you can let's call it another folder. And I'll discuss about this, the diff command, but just to make sure the diff command, just to make sure these are exactly the same. So it didn't give any output, which means those are exactly the same. So I just copied the packages command, the packages folder into another folder. So they're exactly the same. So copy can be used both for copying just a single file or multiple files or even folders. Okay, let's go up. Now let's talk about the ls. Was already talked about. So the diff command, I think I mentioned about the diff command. So again, if we want to check to see if they're, for example, diff code of conduct dot markdown code of conduct. We want to see if they're exactly the same. We get no output, so that means they're exactly the same. And similarly, if you want to see if the folders, another folder, and packages are exactly the same, we can use the recursive flag -r, do another folder, and packages like that. Okay, so that was the copy command. Now let's talk about pwd. So what this stands for is print working directory. It says print the name of current or working directory, and it's quite useful at times. So I just type pwd, and what this tells you is basically where you're working at the current moment. And this can be very useful, especially if you're programming. So for example, if I want to copy this, let's say I want to copy this, I can type cd and then put that in parentheses, or put quotes or double quotes, it doesn't matter, cd that, and we're back into the same one. But let's say, for example, I went up 2 directories, I can go back to it, back to where we were originally. Okay, so that was pwd. It's pretty simple, but it's very useful. And I would say it's mostly useful probably for programming, but it can be useful if you're not programming. Okay, now the mkdir command. So this is a very useful command. Basically, it stands for make directories, or make. So let's say we want to make a folder. You can make a folder with mkdir like that, and then folder 1. Call it whatever you want. Let's say we want to make 5 folders. Mkdir A, B, C, D, E. Okay, it just made 5 folders: folder A, folder B, folder C, folder D, folder E, and folder 1. And so we have just made 6 folders. So make directory is a very useful command, and make a directory fun. And so all these folders are empty. We haven't put any files in them, but later I'll show some with output. Okay, now let's go to the next command, which is, I'm going to say it's this. So this symbol hash means a comment, and it's a very, very useful thing. So I wouldn't actually say it's a command. It's an aspect of the Bash language. But anything you have, if you put this as the first in a command, anything after will be ignored. So for example, I can say hash space cd, and with that'll basically a comment means the interpreter will ignore everything after it. So if you've made a typo, or if you've done something it can be useful. For example, if you don't want to run a command, but you'll come back to it. For example, let's say you want to delete a file. I'll discuss the rm command, but you don't want to delete it now. You can just do this means ignore, and then when you want to come back, you can run it as is. So the hash is the comment in bash, and it's very useful. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Sudo. So sudo is basically, I'll look it up for you. So execute a command as another, basically this execute a command as the super user. So that's the most common use so basically it means run a command as the administrator. So I'm not going to actually run this command, but for example, in Ubuntu, you can update your system with sudo apt update and sudo apt upgrade -y. And what this will do is basically it'll update and upgrade your system. You have to be an administrator to update and upgrade in Ubuntu or Debian. And so sudo is basically, you'll be using it if you want to install software or do things that require super user rights. So you'll use sudo a lot, most likely. And I just put a comment here, so it completely ignored it. But if I didn't completely ignore it, it'll ask you for your sudo password, and you'll need to type that in. Otherwise, it won't work. Okay, let's go to the next one. It is the rm command. So I have these 5 files. They are, notice they all have 0 bytes, so they're all completely empty files. It's just file 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're different files. And rm is a command that allows you to delete a file. For example, let's say delete 1. rm1 means you will delete that file. Let's say rm5. So you'll delete file 5, and so on. And now I want to discuss the wildcard. So the wildcard in Linux, in Bash, the asterisk is a wildcard, and that means anything or everything, depending on the context. So in this context, for example, I've still got these files. If I want to delete all of them at once, you can type rm space star or asterisk, and it will delete all of them. So this is a very useful thing in regular expressions. I won't discuss regular expressions much, other than this is a very useful wildcard. The wildcard is very useful. So if you type rm star, notice that all of these files are gone, and then if you type ls-la, they're all gone. So that's a very useful command. Now let's talk about the rmdir command. And it's similar to the rm command, but it only deletes directories. So we have, previously I did something like this, mkdir a, b, c, d, and we've got empty folders. The rmdir command will delete folders. It only deletes folders. It won't delete files. So I just did rmdir a, and if you want to delete multiple folders, they all have to be empty. So this will delete all of them. Now going back to the rm command, I wanted to also mention about, I'm going to show you something I'll discuss later. Let's say I want to make a directory, let's say test, and let's go into test, and we'll make 4 subfolders, and let's also make 4 subfiles, and I'll discuss the touch command later. So we have 4 files, and we have 4 folders in here. You can actually use the rm command, rm-r, and this will, if you do rm-r, and then on a folder, what it will do is essentially it will delete all the files and subfiles and it'll delete the folder and all subfolders and subfiles. So if I'd run it like that, rm-r test, so the entire folder is gone and all the subfiles and subfolders are gone. So that's a very useful thing to have. And typically I actually use rm-rf, but you can use just -r for beginners. Okay, now let's talk about the history command. So history command is very useful. I'm going to type history-c. That's going to clear the history, but I'm going to type a few commands now. Let's say cd this. So I cleared the history, but now let's go back and let's type the history command now. So there are 9 commands that I've typed, and then if I want to clear it, history will just show that I've typed the history command. A history command is very useful if you want to see all the previous commands that you've typed. So for example here, I'm just moving around, and the history command will show you all the previous commands you've typed. It can be very useful, especially if you're trying to debug something or doing system administration. Okay, now the cat command. The cat command, basically it's a way to, let's see here. Let's go back to, let's go to here. Let's go to the playground. So the cat command is a way to basically output a text file to the terminal. So I have, this is Sherlock Holmes. This is a Sherlock Holmes book. And cat stands for concatenate files and print them on the standard output. So again, if I want to output the book Sherlock Holmes, and this is from Gutenberg, the cat is an incredibly useful thing. Now this file is very big, so I don't think it'll show everything because it actually cuts off after a certain point. But the cat command is very, very useful, and it's basically a way to output the text to the terminal. Okay, now the man command, M-A-N. The man command is a way to get manuals for specific commands. So for example, let's say you want to look up ls. Maybe you've forgotten different flags. You can look up different flags and different things, and it's incredibly useful. So for example, again, man ls. You can look up, for example, I did ls-la before. You can look up what is -l, sorry. So -l means use a long listing format. And then, for example, again, like I've said, I do ls-la. If I want to do, if I want to look up what the -a flag means, it means do not ignore entries with dot. So this means show everything, even hidden files. So the man command, you can use it for almost any Linux command if it actually has a manual. And later I'll discuss this command, wget. And it's basically, you can learn so much about Linux using the man command. And again, if you want to learn about the pwd command, you can type man space pwd, the command, and you can learn about it. Okay, now let's go into wget. So wget is a way to basically download things, and it's called the non-interactive network downloader. So let's say that you wanted to download WordPress. If you're on the WordPress site, you can copy it has a download WordPress link, and if you actually type wget, and then if it has to be the direct link to the file, and you can download it this way. So this just downloaded WordPress, and now I'm going to discuss the unzip command. So the unzip command is basically what it it's in the name, it unzips. So it basically takes a zip file, a .zip file, and it will extract it. So unzip latest.zip. So this is all of the WordPress files, the default WordPress files. For example, if you want to learn about the index.php, so this is the default WordPress, and we just downloaded WordPress with wget. So the general form is wget and then the direct link, whatever the link is. So that's the link to WordPress, but you can download basically anything with wget so long as the firewall isn't blocking wget and it's available publicly on the internet. Okay, now let's discuss the next one, which is ping. So ping is basically used for networking. It's very useful. It has two main uses. The main use is one, to check if a website is working. So you can ping olama.com. Okay, Olama is working. And also the other thing is ping can be used to test if your internet connection is working. If, for example, olama.com is working, but your internet is down, you'll see no output. So ping is very useful, one, to test if a website is working, and two, to test if your own internet connection is working. So that's very good. Now let's discuss the top command. So top, T-O-P. So top is a way to see Linux processes running. You can see here it shows you the username, the root, the process ID. It's got percentage of CPU usage, the memory usage, and a lot of information. For example, this is the LX terminal running. I'm filming this video with OBS, and this is related to sound stuff. And then code is VS Code. So the top command is very useful, and it's basically like a computer monitor, monitoring all the different things going on. And it says here display Linux processes, so that's what top is. Okay, and I've already discussed the history. Now let's discuss sort. So the sort command, I'm going to output this text here. So I have a bunch of random texts. I wrote blah, 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 and then I typed the letter D multiple times, and then just a bunch of gibberish. I wrote Star Trek, Star Trek, Star Wars, fun, 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 computer science, computer science. So the sort command is basically in the name, it sorts a file. So you type the sort and then the file name, and then it'll output the file sorted. And by default, it will be alphabetically from A to Z. You can sort descending, but there's different options. And if you want to learn more about sort, you can just type man sort, and you can learn a lot from that. So that's the sort command, and then the uniq or uniq command is pretty similar, but it only will give you unique lines. So it says it'll report or emit repeated lines. So basically, yeah, so uniq is basically a way to remove duplicate lines. So if I do it like this, unique random text, and sometimes you need to do this multiple times. For example, I'll show you, I'm going to show you piping, but I'll show you this later. But let's say you want to sort this, and then you use uniq. So but what this does is it first sorts it, and then it takes the sorted text and gives it to this. So sometimes uniq won't work on the first time if, like here, it has multiple D's, but I think that's because of the way the original text was. Sometimes you need to play around with it. But if you did something like this, first sort it and then do uniq, then you can get rid of the duplicate lines and also sort it. So that's very useful, and they can be used together. Okay, the touch command. The touch command is very useful. What this does is, one, there's basically two things. One, you can make empty text files. For example, if I want to touch. So this allows you to make empty text files and just to list it like that. Notice they're all empty. They have 0 bytes. So these are all empty files. And note that there's a timestamp on them. This is the time that I've just made them, but I'll come back to them in just a moment. And I want to show you touch because it can update the timestamp. Okay, let's go back to touch now that it's gone up by 1 minute. Just for c.txt. I just touched it, and what that did, notice what it did is it updated the timestamp. It just did it for C. Notice the timestamp is 2239 for all the other ones, but I did touch c.txt, and it updated the timestamp for what the current time is. So that's the main, there's two main things, is one, it can make empty text files, and two, it can update the timestamp of a file. So it's very useful. Okay, next let's go to echo. So echo by itself isn't actually that useful. It's kind of like, if you're familiar with Python, it's basically like print of Python or command.console.log in JavaScript. So by itself, it's not that useful, but it is very useful in other things like with piping. So you can just type echo, and then you can either use single quotes or double quotes like that, and it echoes. It's basically print to console, but it's most useful when you actually use it with other things. For example, I'm going to show you about this redirect. Let's say, so what I just did is I said hi there, and I put it, what this does is it, what's the exact terminology? It will, it's called output redirection. And what this does is I just made a text file with hi there, and we can see that with cat abc.txt, and notice that the text file is, it has hi there. And just to show you again, let's say, let's do, yeah, a moment here. Where did I put that? It's in echo. And if I open the file like this, the text file is just hi there. So that's echo. Now, now output redirection. The output redirection, as I've mentioned before, it's just this symbol. Basically, it's the this caret symbol pointing to the right. And again, it's called output redirection. It's very, very useful. And basically, it's a way to take output and put it into a text file. So again, like I said before, you can do like, say echo I like Linux, and put that into a text file, linux.txt. And see here, so now that's in there. So that output redirection is very, very useful. And you can, when you're doing complex commands, this can be very, very useful. I use it all the time, but it's hard. It's a little bit more advanced, but I just wanted to let you know about that. That's very, very useful. So you can take the output from a command and put it into a text file. Okay, now I've already mentioned about ping. Okay, so I guess I had ping twice. That was a mistake. Now let's discuss the du command. So the du command, it stands for estimate file space usage. So I use it mainly just on single files. So for example, this one, the du Sherlock Holmes .txt, it shows you, and then you can add the flag -human. So it's almost 1 megabyte in size. It's 596K. So du-h is something I use all the time to find what the size of a file is, if it's a big file, and or just I want to know. And there's another command I'll discuss later, df, and that's used for the for the file system. Du is used for individual files. Okay, now df, again, the df command tells you about your file system. It's very, very useful, but the one I use most often is df, and then you have the flag -h and slash, and that's assuming your main partition is on slash. So this gives me very useful information. So this is my main system. This is how much storage has been used, and this is how much storage I have left. So it says 97% has been used. So I only have 3% left, or 15 gigs left. And that's what df-h. And again, usually I would use that. It depends on your system. You can just type df. And here, this is my main system, but you can also learn about other things as well. Okay, the free command is very useful. It tells you information about memory. So it says display amount of free and used memory in the system. So the default one, I don't use that much. Actually, I use the, I often use something like this. I often will use free-m or free-h. But actually this one is probably better. Free space --giga-h. So this will tell you how much memory is used in gigabytes and how much is, for example, this is the total memory is 31. This is how much swap. This is how much is free. So this is how much. So basically, this is the so there are two different things. This is the memory, and this is the swap. Swap takes from the hard drive, and memory is basically your RAM. So I have 16 gigabytes free, and this is how much 4.1 gigabytes has been used. And then these are some more information. So if you're running a server, for example, and you have limited RAM, the free dash can give you very useful information, again, especially if you're running like a website or you don't have that much memory on your computer, so you can find how much is being used and how much you have left and so on. Okay, now let's go to the find command. So this is a little bit more of a complex command, but I still wanted to show it to you. So the find command basically is a way to find files. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So what this says is this will find all the different. This is going to find first you have to give it the directory you want to use. If you want to give it the current directory, you will give it the dot. So current directory would be .find. This gives me all the text files. So what this says is find all files in the current directory. Dot means current directory, and this is good to know. I mentioned before about the asterisk, and the dot is another very useful one. Dot means current working directory, and star means anything or everything, basically. So it's good to know about dot. You'll use dot often. So with find space dot, and then dot name space star.txt. What this says is find all the files ending in .txt in the current working directory, and this will find all, and it also will look through all the subfolders and subfiles as well. And I have, you see it has WordPress, and look how many subfolders. We've got 1 subfolder, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So at least 5 levels of folders. So find is a very useful way and a great way to save you time. Okay, now let's talk about grep, G-R-E-P. And it's a very useful command. And let's just look in the manual. It says print lines that match patterns. So for example, if I have this, I mentioned before about the Sherlock Holmes book. This outputs the whole book, But let's say we want to find all the lines that have the word Sherlock spelled with a capital S first. So what this does is it will show you all the lines that have the word Sherlock in it anywhere on the line. And actually there's not that many lines. And I'll show you we can also use this, the output redirect. Let's say we want to put it into abcd.txt. So this takes the output from grep, cat, or I'm going to use my favorite text editor, Vim, but I won't show you how to use Vim. So there's 97 lines in the output. So grep is an incredibly useful thing, and also you can use the grep. We can use grep with the -r flag. And what that does is it search recursively, so that searches for all subfiles and subfolders, or it searches through all subfolders, and I think it only looks through files, but let's look through all the folders in that have Sherlock in it. Let's see here. grep-r Sherlock, top Linux commands. Okay, so what this does is it searches for all the files in all the subfolders, and this shows you here we've got, I put it in a lot of different, and it's going to give you a lot of output because it's actually going to search all the different subfiles. So it's a very useful thing. grep-r is incredibly useful, allows you to search recursively, and again, it's very useful. Okay, one more, and then let's go to rename. So let's say, for example, let's say that you have some files that are, there's like a typo. For example, let's say that you are writing Python code, and Python code actually should be ending in .py, but for some reason, let's say it ends in .pyy. Instead of manually editing all of those, you can use the command rename, and the general form is you'll have rename like this, and then an S, and then the first one in here is the text that you want to edit, and then the next one here is the text you want to replace. And this means everywhere, and this is the star, that means asterisk. So that means basically everything in the current folder rename, and I'll run that here. So what this is going to do is rename all the files ending in that have .pyy, and it'll change it to .py. And let's show you here. So now they've all been changed to .py. So rename, this can use complicated regular expressions, but it's a very useful thing. Now let's go here. Sed. Sed is a little bit complicated to use, but it is incredibly useful. So for example, let's say that we wanted to, I'll zoom out here if I can. Let's say that we want to replace anywhere where there's the word Sherlock with 3 emojis of a detective. And this is something, notice here that we have, this is a similar pattern like sed. Rename and sed have similar patterns like this. So what this sed will do is it will edit the text file and do whatever replacements or other complicated editing in a programmatic way. So what this is going to do is change all references of Sherlock to 3 detective emojis, and then again, what this does, the caret, it's going to save it to a file called detective edited. So I'm going to do that. and I made a mistake, and notice it gave an error. So you'll learn to use debugging. It's a very useful skill. Okay, so what I just did is I now replaced all references of Sherlock with 3 detective emojis. Notice here, it's called The Adventures of, and it's not Sherlock, The Adventures of 3 detective emojis. I'll scroll down. 3 detective emojis. 3 detective emojis, and so on. So it's a very useful thing. And now let's discuss head. So head is a way to show the top n lines of a file. So it says output the first part of files. So for example, let's say I want to do head detective edited. This will show the first few lines of the file. But let's say I wanted to show the top 30 lines. You can type the -n parameter and then the number. This will show the top 30 lines, for example. So head is very, very useful. It doesn't have to be 30, it can be any line, and it's very useful. Okay, now let's discuss tail. So tail is kind of the opposite of head. Head will show you the first few lines, and tail will show you the last few lines. So let's do, for example, tail detective edited. So this is the last few lines of the book. Now let's say I wanted to show the last 50 lines. If I wanted to show the last 50 lines, I can type like that. And note, I just typed Control L. Control L will clear the screen, and it's a very useful thing. So if I want to show the last 50 lines of the book, type tail-50. I meant to type tail-n50 detective edited. So that's very useful. And let's do one more, git clone. So this is kind of, it's not Linux, I wouldn't say it's a command you're going to use that much, but anytime you're on GitHub, for example, any GitHub page will have stuff like this, and you can copy, it'll say copy URL. What you can do is you can download GitHub repositories with a command like this, git clone, and then you copy the .git URL, and what that will do is it will download the GitHub repository for you. It's very useful. It doesn't have to be for GitHub, it can be for any Git repository, but GitHub is the biggest. And this is a machine, I think this is Open Deep Research. I forgot what this is. It's something from LangChain, and I haven't actually looked at this much, but this was a trending repository, and it's pretty popular. Okay, and let's do, I think we have one more to go. And then bash. So I mentioned, so bash, what we're actually typing right now is bash. Bash is itself a language, but if you want to actually run commands like this, and you want to do it in a programmatic way instead of typing everything into the command line manually, you can type them into text files. And this, for example, will download the WordPress, and then let's say I also want it to unzip, and I'm going to save this, and then you can run bash files like that. So what this just did is it downloaded the WordPress, and it also unzipped it. And some honorary mentions I'll mention about would be chmod and chown. So chmod is changed the basically it changes the permissions of a file. So for example, download WordPress has the permissions for this are 664. But let's say I wanted to change the permissions to 777. chmod. And I haven't used this command at all. But let me see here. Oh, because I had man first. So if you want to change the permissions to 777, let's type this again. Notice that the permissions just changed. Now this is 777. Right here, 777 is the permissions. But the permissions for this are 664. And then chown is a way to change the ownership. But I think I'll end the video here. So I've gone over a lot, but these are all incredibly useful commands. And the best way to learn is by doing. So I recommend you practice these a lot. So we went over cd, ls, the copy command cp, pwd, diff, make directory, mv, and oh, I'm not sure if I did. Did I do that? Okay, let's just make sure I did. I think I might have skipped that accidentally. So the mv command is very, very useful. It's a way to rename files or folders. So we have this code of conduct. Let's say the code of conduct, we don't like the name. Let's change it to just conduct. So what we just did is we renamed the code of conduct as that. And we can also rename folders. So move packages, and let's call it some other name. So what I just did is I changed the folder name. So move is very, very useful. And yeah, so you can change, and let's say when we want to rename security to just security, and now it has been renamed. And so I went over sudo and then the asterisk wildcard. I went over rm, which is delete files or folders. rmdir is just delete folders, and they have to be empty. History shows all the commands you've typed. And now we have a lot more. I have over almost 250 commands I've typed. And it's very useful. So history shows you what you've typed. And then cat command, this again, it'll output a text file. Man will give you a manual page of a command if it has one. wget will download files. Unzip will unzip files. This is like downloading files. Ping is a way to test a website or your own internet connection. Top is a way to get Linux processes, and it's like a way to monitor your computer. Again, history. Okay, I guess I've typed this twice. History, anyway, is a way to get the history of your command. Sort is a way to sort a file. Uniq is a way to get the unique lines. Touch is a way to make empty files or update the timestamp. Echo is a way to just print. This is a way to output to a file. And again, I guess I have some things that are duplicates. du allows us to get the information on files. df will give us file information, for example, how much hard drive space we have left. Free is for getting information about memory. Find is a way to find files, very useful. Grep is a way to search files for specific things in the file. Rename will allow us to rename files. Sed is a tool that allows us to edit text files in a programmatic way. Head will allow us to see the first few lines of a text file. Tail will allow us to see the last few lines of a text file. Git clone is how we can get repositories, especially from GitHub. And then if you have a bash file, so any file that ends in .sh or .bash, you can likely run it with the bash command. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. And this was around 30 very useful Linux commands. And hope you enjoyed. And if you liked this, please subscribe to or follow my channel, and see you in the next one. Thank you.